The Caucasus Germans, also known as the Volga Germans, are an ethnic group with a complex history rooted in migration patterns of Germans into western and southern regions of the Russian Empire during the 18th and 19th century. Invited by Tsar Alexander I and Tsarina Catherine the Great to colonize and develop the sparsely populated areas and recently occupied Transcaucasian nations, Germans grew thriving communities with distinct cultural and religious characteristics that would impact Georgia even today. They established the region's first pharmacy, first beer brewery, and even had a German newspaper, whilst their engineers brought telegraph poles and built many of the grand buildings and botanical gardens that are spread across Tbilisi and beyond today. However, their history took a dark turn during World War II when Stalin accused them of collaboration with the Nazis. This led to mass deportations into Central Asia. Today we will explore what remains of these fascinating and partially abandoned German villages in Georgia and explore their success and their demise. We will explore the lives of those who still remain. This is the compelling story of Germans in Georgia. It is worth briefly visiting how Georgia got to the point of Tsarist rule. In 1783, Erekle II of the Western Georgian Kingdom of Kartli-Kakheti forged an alliance with the Russian Empire for help against its constant battle with Persian forces. The Russo-Georgian alliance, however, backfired, as Russia was unwilling to fulfill its terms of the treaty and proceeded to annex the troubled kingdom in 1801, reducing it to the status of a Russian region, the Georgian Governorate. In 1810, the Western Georgian Kingdom of Imereti was also annexed. Russian rule over Georgia was eventually acknowledged in various peace treaties with Persia and the Ottomans, and the remaining Georgian territories were absorbed by the Russian Empire in a piecemeal fashion, in, of course, the 19th century. The Russian Empire knew the value of Georgian fertile land, which was large but pretty sparsely populated, with poor conditions for growing crops at present. Catherine the Great and Alexander I took advantage of the Lutheran southern Germans in the Swabian region and their ever-growing conflict at home with other Christian denominations, and invited to bring them and their farming experience to the Caucasus, where they settled in modern-day Azerbaijan and Georgia. During their time in the region, the Caucasus Germans maintained a unique blend of German and Russian cultural influences, contributing significantly to the local economy and agricultural development. Their settlements feature traditional German architecture and institutions such as churches and schools. Despite their contributions, the community faced increasing discrimination and persecution in the early 20th century, culminating in the tragic events of the Stalin era. Firstly, let's explore the town of Bolnisi, or Katarinenfeld, as it was known as the largest urban-type settlement, and it covers an important area of the centre of the current city of Bolnisi today. The oldest part of Katarinenfeld, which the locals call the German district, is in the surroundings of an evangelical Lutheran church. It includes the many streets where evidence of the past is obvious. The name came from, and in honour of, Queen Catherine of Württemberg. During World War I and then during the Soviet period, German villages changed their names. In honour of the revolutionary socialist Rosa Luxemburg, Katarinenfeld was named Luxembourg and then renamed to Bolnisi in 1943. The German quarter of Bolnisi is the oldest place there. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in Katarinenfeld was built in 1854. The church had a tall bell tower which was demolished by Soviet authorities, and then a school gym was established. The building is still used for sporting events, but the distinct features of a church can be seen from the side, even though the front is embellished with Soviet images. Near Katarinenfeld Church is also the pastor's house, the facade and the attic, which has now been completely rebuilt, although the original basements and the main walls stand. In 1920, an additional floor was built on the one side of the building of the community house and later converted into a school. In 2019, with the support from the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Bolnisi municipality, its restoration fully took place. There used to be 3 mills in the village. The former mill of the Kotzler family was bought by the German son-in-law of the Bolnisian family 10 years ago. The building was reconstructed, and today German Mill is a well-known hotel and restaurant at Sioni Street No. 4. In the German district of Bolnisi, in addition to the church, school, mill, firehouse, the best residential houses from different periods have survived today, which seems to have a strong influence of Georgian architecture too. It is a synthesis of Swabian and Georgian architecture, where traditional Georgian wooden balconies coexist with Fachwerk style typical of German houses, and their high attic roofs and the deep basements. The economic rise of this area was primarily due to wine production. The Germans started cultivating wine in 1820 with seedlings given to them by the locals. Georgia is well known for being the world's cradle of wine, having evidence of wine dating back over 8,000 years. In the settlement, there were private winemaking companies and a public viticulture farm. The Germans shared wine varieties and winemaking experiences with Georgians, but they did not use the Georgian style of fermentation in clay qvevris, preferring their traditional wooden barrels for fermenting, storing and transporting wine, as was the fashion in mainland Europe at the time. The basements of the German houses in Bolnisi still have functioning cellars, where barrels of different sizes and equipment needed for winemaking are kept to this day. Many families still preserve German furniture, books, musical instruments and household items, many of which can be found in restaurants or maranis here. A German set up the Union of Winemakers, as well as the local football team and brass band, and this house, which was used for that purpose, has recently been renovated and is still used today by the Bolnisi Winemakers Union. Houses in Bolnisi have thick walls, high attics, deep basements and wine cellars. The high attics were where German settlers kept provision, including smoked sausages and dried cheese, as the smoke would rise up through the house. The attics also contained small windows called pigeonholes, so that the worms would not get into the cheese. The basements were dug very deep so that wine could be kept at the proper temperature no matter the season. Bolnisi does get hot in the summer. Some basements contain 200-year-old wooden casks to this day. I was invited into someone's basement and offered wine from one of these casks. The people here are warm and proud of their heritage and culture. Sadly, at the start of the Second World War, Stalin declared all Germans living in this area enemies of the state, and they were quickly deported. The only exception to the deportations were German women who were married to locals, and some of their descendants remain in Bolnisi to this day. The deportation ended the story of this area. However, the German historic settlement of Bolnisi is so well preserved that you'll really feel that you are in a village in Württemberg. Take a visit and see a slice of Georgian history today. The second settlement we are visiting today is now known as Asureti. It was an ancient Georgian village and possibly founded by Assyrian Christian missionaries, but after constant invasions it became abandoned. In 1818, German colonists settled on the territory under the initiative of the Russian Emperor Alexander I. Here, Germans built a new village near the hot sulphur springs using the ruins, and officially opened it on St. Elizabeth's Day. Accordingly, the German settlement was called Elisabethtal, or Elizabeth's Valley. They put their efforts into agriculture and animal husbandry, and the settlement soon started flourishing. There is a rare indigenous grape here, Asureti Lishala, with its own special taste aroma and is highly appreciated on the market. It is associated with the German farmer Otto Schall. Vineyards were planted near the village on the banks of the Algeti River. In 1931, a 3-story German wine cellar was built at the centre of it, where wine was made and bottled. Schaller wine produced by Germans was not sold only within Georgia, but also made it as far to Yerevan and Baku. It is possible to drink this wine today. Bottles were actually on display in Bolnisi. The children of the German colonists had studied at the Georgian school, where German was taught only as a foreign language. In 1941, the Asureti Germans were deported into Kazakhstan by the communists. Identical houses built of white stone and clay without nails still stand in the village, as well as the old Lutheran church built in 1871 in the Gothic style. Inside you can find displays of old photographs of a flourishing village with an active community. In Asureti you'll also find the German cemetery, with surnames engraved on the tombstones of the settlers and their descendants from different parts of Germany. It is separated from the rest of the graveyard, as this was actually the site of the original church. By the end of 1818, 6 Swabian colonies had been founded within Georgia. Within the city of Tbilisi itself, a community of Germans established themselves in the area known as Neu-Tiflis. The hard-working Swabian farmers who diligently maintained their Lutheran traditions opened a place of worship in each settlement, and Tbilisi was no exception. Attending the church service was a unifying element for Lutheran Germans in Georgia. It all lasted until the establishment of communism, which imposed strict restrictions on these religious rituals. During the Soviet period, Lutherans experienced the same difficulties as Orthodox parish, and with religious instruction and church services slowly getting banned, theatres, cinemas, sports halls and warehouses were all opened in these places of worship instead. In 1941, from October 15th to November the 12th, about 24,000 citizens with German backgrounds were deported from Georgia. In 1945, the German prisoners of war were forced to destroy their church of what is now on Marginashvili Square. A new church was built in 1995 by the remaining German population in Georgia on the site of a former German cemetery on Granelli Street. This church is called the Church of Reconciliation and was organised and funded by Dr. Gerd Hummel, the first evangelical Lutheran bishop of Georgia. There is an olive tree in the garden, a symbol of peace and forgiveness. On Epiphany, I visited the church where I got chatting to a German Georgian. He told me about 20 families remain in Georgia, mostly living in the Bolnisi area now. He explained that many of the remaining families had moved back to Germany a while ago. Kindly, he also offered me a trip to his hometown after I joined him for the service, which was conducted in 4 languages: Georgian, with German, and English and Russian subtitles for members from the varied Christian diaspora. The sermon was shared by priests from different denominations: the Armenian Church, Lutherans, Catholic, Baptist, and accompanied with a brass section and Anglican choir. In a cabinet sits relics of the Swabian family history, photos and memorabilia, marking that they are still here and are a unifying community within their church. To conclude, the brief time German Swabians were in Georgia has left a lasting mark on the country, with busy towns and villages benefiting from their unique and wonderful architecture. However, it is a great shame that the 20th century Stalinist regime did not see the value of these hard-working people who integrated so well into Caucasian society. Whether you are religious or not, it is admirable to see people who went through so much still offering something to society and providing refuge and friendship for minorities within the country of Georgia. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what you liked and tell me what videos you'd like to see in the future. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening.